This is from a series of interviews that I shot in January of 2021 for the Mind, Body, Soul documentary project, where we will be hiking the Continental Divide Trail and exploring the effects that nature has on our well-being. To find out more about the project, visit mindbodysoulfilm.com.
I'm Dale Sanders, D-A-L-E-S-A-N-D-E-R-S, here in my home in Bartlett, Tennessee. Well, list all of my adventures. Well, can I start with when I was young? I got involved in competitive swimming and diving at an early age, actually, and I went up through those, doing all the competitive sports in high school, and then when I got in the Navy, I joined the Navy in '58. Got into spearfishing. And I actually went pretty far in spearfishing. I actually was able to win some national championships, national team championships, as well as Athlete of the Year in spearfishing. Then I went into profession in Parks and Recreation, and I didn't really do any adventures for about 30 years because I was raising a family and Parks and Recreation. But the profession I chose was an adventure in itself, Parks and Rec. So I had 50 years full-time experience in Parks and Rec. Actually 52 years full-time experience in Park and Rec. But when I retired from Park and Rec in 2002, that's when I started my adventures, my early childhood type adventures back up again. And that's where we'll take off and talk about my adventures starting in 2002. But first I want you to know that I did spend 37 years with the Department of the Navy in my professional career. 33 of those years were in the field of park and recreation for the Navy. So I was selected then to go to the Hospital Corpsman Deep Sea Diver School in San Diego, second class school, and so I became a Navy hard hat diver as well. So when I retired, I said I'm going to have to live a life of adventure. So the first few years I did a lot of paddling my canoe and kayak around the Memphis area and some Mississippi River paddling and all. And I actually even I got hired again as a river guide because I'd done so much volunteer work for the Wolf River Conservancy. So from my retirement year in 2002 all the way through 2012 and 2013 and 14, I actually was on the staff for the Wolf River Conservancy. But then I got my little itchy feet, so I decided I wanted to do something really big and get off the Wolf River and get on the big river and paddle the big river. And I figured out that the oldest person to paddle the river was 78 years old. That was Vernon Kruger. Verlin Kruger it's pronounced. And he did it at 78 years old, but I was 80 years old, and I said, I'm going to be 80 years old next year, so why don't I just do a source to sea on the Mississippi River and try to get a world record at the same time? So then I quit my job with the Wolf River Conservancy as a river guide and started training. Went up to Lake Itasca, which is the source of the Mississippi River, and May the 15th, solo paddled all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, 2,500 miles, and got that record as the oldest person to through paddle the Mississippi River. That got a lot of attention, a lot of media attention. I had so many interviews that, partially because of my age, but I think mostly I was interviewed because of my sponsor. I was paddling for juvenile diabetes. My grandniece was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and been living with it for several years, and I wanted to raise money to help with research to see if they can't come up with a way of curing that disease. It kind of got in my blood. I just kind of liked that. I liked all that attention. It was neat. I hate to say that, that's selfish, but it's nice to be recognized. So when I got that Mississippi River record and getting all that media coverage, I knew I had to do something else. And I got home and my wife and I talked it over, and I have to do something really big. I mean, it's got to be really significant. I even asked my Facebook followers, what do you think I should do for my next adventure? I got tons of things. I mean, just tons of ideas. I singled in on the Appalachian Trail. I found out that the oldest person to hike, through hike the Appalachian Trail was 78 when he did it. And I was going on 80. I was going on 81, but I would be 82 when I'd actually hike it. And break Earl Schaefer. Earl Schaefer's the founder of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, and he's the one whose record I broke. I didn't grow up a hiker. I was a boulder. I wasn't really a hiker. I was told, I can't tell you how many times the hikers told me you'll never be able to do it because no one can make the Appalachian Trail, through hike it, unless they have experience as hiker. There's no question about it. It was the hardest thing that I ever did in my life. Nothing, no adventure or no job assignment or anything was as hard as the through hike AT at 82 years old. I got really, really sick. I had internal bleeding and had to come off the trail for 3 weeks until we figured out what the internal bleeding was from, and then the doctor released me and let me go back to the trail. There were moments on the AT, though, that were just really, 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 really bad. I mean, life-threatening, just stranded in the middle of nowhere and cold and wet. I did get one point in there when my van kept breaking on me that I was trying to bring along with me. I kept having all these issues with my knee and my left ankle, right knee and left ankle, and I was really in a depressed state in Vermont. Going up the mountain, my vehicle broke. I was able to get it turned around some way. I'll never know how I got that thing turned around. The motor was dead, and I got it turned around on the mountain so I could coast down. Like, got down to the bottom. I couldn't even find anybody to tow me. It was really bad. It was. Here I am on the side of the highway, no vehicle, no way to get anywhere, and nobody would come help me. I called my wife Miriam, and I said, "Honey, I'm coming home. I just can't do it. I can't go anymore." She said, "No." I couldn't believe her reaction. "You're going to have to finish this thing. If you don't, you'll never forgive yourself." And I got a little inspired, and I finally found a record that told me to a garage, and got the van going again, and I got out back on the trail. I'd got down to 135 pounds. And my body was, I wasn't getting enough calories, or my body was getting the calories, but it wasn't able to use them because I wasn't getting enough other nutrients to use the calories. So it was started eating the muscle the first half. So thank God for the Trade Key program, I was able to stabilize my weight loss and got healthy again and finished that trail out. And got that record as the oldest person to ever through hike the Appalachian Trail. Well, what I did, I flip-flopped.
Oh, that's right.
I hiked from Springer Mountain to Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania, which is just 20 miles more than halfway, roughly 20 miles above the halfway point. Then I flip-flopped and did Katahdin, and then hiked back south to Boiling Springs. When I reached Boiling Springs, it was probably one of the happiest days of my life. I finished the AT, all but 1 mile. That last mile, probably 50 people joined me to hike. And that was euphoric. And we're talking about euphoric experiences. That was an unbelievable, I was walking on cloud 9, nothing. I was just happiest I think I've ever been in my life to be able to walk into that Appalachian Trail Conservancy door, having just finished in 10 months the AT through hike. That was really, really a good experience. And it was picked up on the media. It was picked up by a lot of media, TV and coverage. And it was worth it because the next day we went to Washington, D.C., and my wife went into a Starbucks, come running out with the Washington Post. I was on the front page of the Metro section. Not the front page of the Post, but the Metro section, which is really, really important. My picture took up 1/3 of the Washington Post Metro page, front page.
Why did you start hiking in the first place?
Now, how did I get started? Why did I start hiking in the first place, the AT? Being a boater, I'd never hiked. Well, I grew up on a farm in Kentucky. I can't say I'd never hiked, but I'd never done really, really long distance stuff. I was bullied a lot in junior high school, an awful lot. I really just sort of lost interest in life. I was getting physically beat up, and the principal, in those days, the principal of school would just laugh. They wouldn't do nothing. Nobody would do anything. My mother finally got involved, but that didn't really help. It just made it worse. So I'm thinking that I lost a lot. And I found out if I could do something well, the bullying would go away. The first time it happened was acrobatics. I got involved in acrobatics and did a lot of hand balancing and tumbling. And we didn't have a tumbling program in the school in those days when I graduated, in the early 50s, when I was in high school. So my friend and I just did it on our own. So we got good enough and we were sent to other schools around the county to perform. Well, the bullying went away, and I contributed the bullying went away to the fact that I was able to do something well. I think my whole life was set based on that experience of doing something I thought it probably did. In fact, it probably did have something to do with the bullying stopping. So that's why I went into competitive spear fishing, why I did springboard diving and competitive swimming before that. And that's why I'm sure that I got involved in doing these big, long adventures when I did the Mississippi River. And so my adventure life did not really start again until I was 80 years old. But in the AT, I was alone for 10 months, basically. So I think that brought me back to nature, being alone. I got the worldly corruption out of me. I think that's when I probably got healed. That's about the same time I started recognizing what had happened to me and why I was so competitive. The bullying. About the same. I never thought of that before. About the same time, the AT. So the AT, to me, was a healing process. It took 70 years, though.
What are some other records that you hold?
I did finish the Mississippi River on 2015, so I wanted to do something for 2016, so I decided to join a team and paddle the Missouri River race called the MR340. And it turns out that it took us 81 hours to finish that, and I was 81 years old. And it turns out that I became the oldest person to ever finish that race, the MR340. And I sandwiched that in between the Mississippi River and the Appalachian Trail, and that was a good thing to sandwich in there. Well, I guess I got the bug because then I decided I would do something next year also big. I decided real fast to go ahead and do the Florida National Scenic Trail. That starts at Key West, Florida, goes the full length of Florida, down the Panhandle, up through the roadwork of Alabama, the Pinhoti Trail, the Benton McKay Trail, over to where I started 2 years before on the AT, Springer Mountain. And so I did that in 2019. Found out that the oldest person to do a rim to rim to rim in the Grand Canyon was 80 years old. Rim to rim to rim in the Grand Canyon is, in the particular case, to get this record, to break the 80-year-old's record, I had to start at the White Angel Trailhead on the south rim, hike down and cross the river, Colorado River, and hike up to Phantom Ranch, and then hike up to Cottonwood, and then out at the North Rim, which is the North Kaibab Trail. I think you call it North Kaibab Trail. And then turn around and repeat that same route back to where I started on the South Rim. And that's a rim to rim to rim. See, 3 rims involved. Start, and then back to where I started. And so now I have that record.
How does this time in nature affect your health?
I take 3 medicines. I take eye drops for glaucoma, but I can't get off of that. I have to take that. I have to take my drops every day. And I take something for my cholesterol, and I take a high blood pressure medicine. But when I'm on these adventures, especially hiking, I have to get completely off my medications because I'm not having a cholesterol problem, so I don't need that medicine. And my heart rate is up and down so much that it gets sort of stables out on its own, and I don't need more heart pressure medicine. Now that's in my case. I can't say this be the same for everybody, but in my case, I don't have to, after a couple of weeks on the trail, I don't have to take my medicine anymore. I don't have any trouble sleeping. I feel when I'm not hurting because of an accident or something, or just simple overuse, I feel great. And I really believe that the physical activity has helped me keep my mental capacity. I'm just hoping that it will help me on into my 90s to keep my mental capacity to function in society into my 90s. Wouldn't that be great?
Did you fit in with the young people on the AT?
The average thru hiker that I met on the AT, well, first of all, they were probably in their 20s. My greatest fear, literally, my greatest fear that I had before I started hiking the AT was, will I be accepted in that 20s young culture? Or will they reject me as just an old, an old dirty old man? Well, I not only was accepted, but I was embraced. I was taken in just as one of them. Age was not a factor. That was really a good feeling as well. Now you talking about, that helped a lot with my attitude, because now here suddenly the young people are my friends. And they love me, and they're not criticizing me. They're not bullying me. They're just another hiker that just loves nature like I. And we just blend together. Age, really, literally, on the AT, not only me, but I think all the hikers, age doesn't really matter anymore. Don't matter if you're 17, just got out of high school, or if you're 65 and just retired. You're all the same. You're an AT hiker, thru hiker.
What does it mean to be one with nature?
I have spent hours deep in my heart searching to find answers to those questions about why am I here? How can I be, what does that phrase, be one with nature, mean? How do I survive without the modern conveniences of life. I think the biggest payday for me, having done all these different types of, some of very difficult challenges, is that I have learned, basically, this is an old cliche, who I am. I think I've learned what I've said all my life, basically the expression, become one with nature, or become one with the river. I've been saying that my whole life, but I really didn't know what I was saying. I didn't understand it. And it wasn't until I was on the Appalachian Trail that I really understood what being one with the trail or one with nature is all about. And it's the most, euphoric experience that I've ever encountered. Even more euphoric than the experiences I had in my first big adventure, the Mississippi River. But I can't seem to come up with the words of how I felt to tell it. It's just, I know that I became one with nature and the trail in this case, because I was in a situation where everything was going good, going great. I was healthy, jumping along the trail and happy and driving and passing out my decals and getting recognized and talking to hikers and all. And in one place I went out on this mountain top by myself, warm and not cold, not wet, and looked around, and all of a sudden I had this feeling that even though I was alone, I wasn't alone. Nature was with me. God was with me. Superpower, whatever you want to call it. I was there. I was in that was the most intense feeling that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I was 30 minutes there. I was just top of the world. And I felt closer to God than ever in my entire life during that experience. The church didn't put me close to God. Nature did. I hate to say that to my Christian friends, but I'm really closer to God in nature. So if you take that and you couple the fact that I'm out there alone, I'm out there enjoying the experience, and I'm looking at nature, I'm living it, I'm one with nature. Yeah, I think that's what did it. I think that was the healing process. And I don't think it would ever happen if I hadn't hiked the AT. I think that God is everywhere. He is in nature as well. And we can't, it's difficult to explain, but it could be expressed that way and be accurate in my way of feeling that God is in nature and nature is God. It could be. But I wouldn't go so far as to say that's a fact, because again, it's so far out of my realm of ability to understand.
It's not really a popular message these days.
No, it's not popular at all.
So
yeah, if you say you're going to have to start reading the Bible and go to church and get God in your life, you turn, the door closes. Nature gets you there. It just happens in nature, automatic. You don't have to. It just does. I think that a lot of the hikers, a lot of them, if they're not Christian, they become spiritually inclined from the hike itself. And that they have to find it, though. They have to find it themselves. You know, if somebody goes and tries to tell them about it, like you mentioned earlier, tell them about God, the young people especially, they shut off right off.
have you had other spiritual experiences?
Ever since I've been an adult, I think I remember way back, right after, I think I remember before I was born. I have this a memory of me floating through it. When I first did this when I was real young, I started doing this actually when I was real young, feeling this and this memory, and it's like I'm floating in something that now we look at as the cosmos, but I felt that as a young kid I was floating in the cosmos. And then I remember when I was really young being born. I think that I might be gifted with something special there to be able to know that I came from someplace else. I don't know where I came from. It's just very vague memory, but those memories are way back. And they're there, and I believe that I existed in some form or way before I was born. You know, something I don't think I've ever said to anybody very much. I really believe that my body was in my mother's womb, in her stomach. My body was within my mother, but I didn't have a spirit. I believe that spirit is what I remember coming in to my body.
What have you learned after all these years of adventure in nature?
But I think I cannot tell you how many times I was asked or told, I want to be just like you, or how can I be just like you when I get old? How can I stay healthy like you? And I came up with basically a statement that I can give. And in my motivational speeches, I always cover these three things. And those three things are, you have to learn how to live happy. No one can tell you how. There's no formula you can take and use to live happy. You yourself have to find the formula and live it to live happy. The second thing is you have to stay physical. You have to stay physical in physical activity, indoors, but outdoor is preferred. You have a much better chance of warding off diseases and issues, health issues, if you stay active. And of course, the adrenaline of happiness along with the activity is really, really important to being healthy and fit. Right now, I'm 85 years old, and I'm as fit as I was at any time in my life. And the third thing is, if you really want to be happy, and that contributes to your physical as well, you have to have and live a good quality spiritual life. Now, I don't mean extremes on either end, but I mean a good quality spiritual life, and find how to live with your Maker. Find how to live and understand God. That is a big part of being one with nature, is understanding that I am part of that. I am created. I'm here as nature. I'm part of this whole cosmos of things. And with that good, positive, spiritual attitude. Now, those three things, if one can do those, they have a much better chance of living into their old age than anyone else. Which, interesting enough, is mind, body, and soul. If you look at it, mind is living happy, and body is staying physical activities, outdoors preferred, and soul is spirit.
And don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on social media to stay up to date with this project.